Hello people, welcome to another video on app development in Swift. In this video we will learn about table views. Table views present data in a scrollable list of multiple rows. Most of the default iPhone apps use table views. The Settings app on your iPhone, for example, uses a table view with multiple sections. Okay, since it's pretty obvious that you want to know about this important view, here's the plan. We will build a simple app that uses the UITableView class in Swift and fill it with some text and images. A grocery list, for example. And while we go about building our app, we will also learn about protocols, delegates, and also come across terms such as adopt, conform, and a few others. With this foundation in place, we will then be able to build more complex UITableView apps in future. Sounds like a plan? Okay, so let's head to Xcode and build our app.
So we'll start by creating a new Xcode project. It'll be a single view application. And let's call it grocery list. It'll be in Swift and for the iPhone. I'm going to save it in the Swift folder and click create. So the first thing we do is go to the main storyboard section on the navigation window and edit the view controller by changing its size to a more realistic iPhone 4-inch. So now that we have got the structure of our app, we're going to add a table view onto it. Okay, so as you can see, there are three structures that you get out here. The first is the table view controller, which we don't need at the moment. The second is the table view, which we do need. And the third is the table view cell, which we will use a bit later. So let's pick up the table view and drag and drop it onto our view controller. So I'm going to adjust it a bit. Maybe pull it down a bit here. Okay, so what we could do is add some constraints onto it. So the first thing I'm going to do is center it in the container. That's one constraint. And then we will also set some more constraints out here. I'm not going to be too fussy about the look and feel at the moment. So we've got 4 constraints out here. Let's add them. Okay, let's do a quick test. See how it looks in the simulator. So let's run the simulator. Alright, so this is how our app looks in the in the portrait mode. And this is how it looks in the landscape mode. So I'm pretty happy with this. So now it's time to go and build the static structure of our grocery list by outlining what items we want in it. And then we're going to put this list onto our UI table view. And for that, we need to go to the assistant editor. So let me quickly shut down the simulator, remove the navigation window, remove the utility window, and go to the assistant editor. So this is where we are going to write our code. So let's start by creating a list of items for our grocery list. And we're going to make it a healthy list. So we're going to have carrots, we're going to have oranges, we're going to have fish, and we cannot forget the cat, so we'll have some cat food too. Right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, apart from having textual information in my list, let's also throw in some images, hey? Images always are a good thing, so I'm going to go into my download section where I have picked up some images. So I'm going to drag and drop them onto my project. So for that, let's open the navigation window once again and pick up these 4 items. Let's just highlight them and drag and drop them onto my project and copy items if needed. Great. So now we are ready to use these items on our grocery list. Okay, so let me hide the navigation window. So here's the grocery list, and this list needs to go onto the table view. So let's create an outlet to the table view by highlighting it, holding down the control key, dragging and dropping. So I'm going to call it my table view. So this grocery list needs to go onto this table view, and for that we need to write code to control the number of rows on the table view as well as what goes into each row. So the table view allows us to do that via a protocol. So let's highlight the command key and click on this table view class. So as you can see, this class has got two variables, a data source and a delegate. So let's click on the data source. So the UITableView data source is a protocol which having functions, some of which are optional. So developers who adopt this protocol can use these functions and implement them. Okay, so this is exactly what we need, because this protocol gives us the functions we need to write the number of rows in our table view as well as write what goes into each view. Into each row. So the first thing we need to do is copy this protocol out here, go back, and we need to adopt that protocol in our class. Okay, so the moment we do that, we get an error which says the view controller, which is our class, does not conform to the protocol which has already been written for the table view class. So what does that mean? So let's go back to the data source. So as you can see, this protocol has got a whole bunch of functions, some of which are optional. So we need to implement the non-optional functions, and that helps us, or that works well for us, because these are the exact two functions we need to populate the number of rows in our grocery list as well as populate what goes into each row. So I'm just going to yank or copy these two functions and go back here and paste them out there. Okay, so let's remove this comments out here. So as you can see, there's no body of the function, and that's exactly as it is because we have got to implement the body. So let's just create the structure of the body out here and out here. All right. So as you can see, both functions have the same name, table view, but they have different signatures. For example, this first function returns an integer, and the second function returns a table view cell. And these functions are going to get called within this class of ours, or we've got to implement them. So the first function is pretty easy. So it returns an int, or basically is the number of rows in this table view. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to return. So here's my grocery list, which is an array of items. So I'm going to return the number of items in my grocery list, which will be the number of rows within the table view. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. Now this function is a bit more complex. So this function is going to be called for each row that I have reserved out here. So in this case, basically 4. And out here, I'm going to be able to control what goes into each row or cell. So basically, when I say what goes into each cell, there are two things. Firstly, how will each cell look? And second, what data will go into each cell. So let's go ahead and write this code. So I'm going to start by declaring a variable called myCell of type TableViewCell, and I'm going to initialize it using one of the functions from my table view. And that function is dequeue reusable cell with identifier, which returns an any object. And since it returns an any object, I would need to downcast it to a table view cell. Now this function, as you can see, takes in two parameters. So for the first parameter, I'm just going to type prototype 1 out here and explain this in a bit. And for the second parameter, all we are going to do is pass the index path out here. Okay. So that initializes my cell.
So the next thing we could do is add some text to my cell. And let's do that. So we'll do my cell.text label and add some text into it. And the text will be nothing but the text from our grocery list. So we can take our grocery list out here and pass the same index path from here. Now index path, as you can see, is an NX index path. So we need to convert that to an integer. There we go. We also want to add an image to the cell. So I'll use my cell and add an image view. And to this image view, we will add an image. And that image will be, I'm going to call this class UIImage and initialize it. So as you can see, it takes a string parameter. So let's use that. And in the string, all we'll do is pass our grocery list again. Okay. There we go. And finally, we can return my cell. Okay, so let's see if this works. Right, so no problems there. So let's see what we did once again. So we called a function called TableView, which returns a UITableView cell. We've initialized the cell. We needed to downcast it out here. We added some text to the cell. We've added an image to the cell. And finally, we have returned the cell. So there's one thing we haven't catered to. What is this prototype? So this prototype controls the look of our cells. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the standard editor, open up the utilities section, and as you can see this TableView cell out here, I'm going to drag and drop it onto our controller. So this is a prototype cell. So I'm going to highlight the cell and click this button out here. Let's make sure that our cell is highlighted. Okay, so here's this prototype cell and we can give it an identifier and make sure I use the same identifier I have used in the code. Okay, so this has given an identifier to this prototype cell. So the cells in our table view will inherit the attributes of this prototype. So basically we could give a background color, we could give a height, a width, a tint, an alpha, so on and so forth. So the cells in our application will inherit the properties out here. Okay, that done. So let's go back. Let me make sure I've done it properly. Okay, let's go back to our assistant editor and hide this utility section once again. Okay, so that's prototype. It's going to inherit the features of that cell out there. Right, so I just need to do one more thing, and that is in the view did load, I have added this piece of code, which is saying that my table view, the data source prototype of my table view is implemented by this class out here, view controller, which we have just written. Okay, so that done, we are now ready to test our application. All right, so let's kick off the simulator. And there we have it, our healthy grocery list. A bit wanting in the aesthetics department, but we could leave that for another day. Let's just do another thing. Let's change the background cell color. So I'm going to stop the simulator, go here, open up the utility section once again, highlight my prototype cell, and all I need to do is go to the background color and change it. And let's run the simulator once again. Okay, and there we have it, a new background color without writing any code. Now, some of you may have noticed that we did not adopt the UITableView delegate protocol. Can you think of reasons for not doing so? Also, please play around with the other methods of the UITableView data source protocol if you can. In future videos, we will build on this UITableView foundation. So take it easy, guys, and bye for now.